The Scottish Greens welcome the commitment yesterday from the First Minister to prioritise the climate emergency. All the evidence is clear. Preventing climate breakdown means leaving new oil and gas in the ground. As part of government, the Scottish Greens worked hard to ensure that the draft energy strategy contained a landmark presumption against new oil and gas exploration. This is consistent with the science. That position has been thrown into doubt this week by the Cabinet Secretary for Net Zero, who branded proposals for no new oil and gas during a climate emergency as too extreme. When will the Scottish Government publish the now long overdue final energy strategy? Can the First Minister commit to ensuring Parliament will have time to scrutinise this before recess? And will it still contain the presumption against new oil and gas which was consulted on?
First Minister.
President Officer, the issues that Lorna Slater raises with me are, of course, or have been the subject of consultation. The Government will bring forward, as I set out yesterday, the energy strategy. Obviously, we are now in a slightly different position because of the election rules as to what the Government can bring to Parliament, because we have to be mindful of the propriety advice we get from the Permanent Secretary about the issues that we can bring to Parliament in an election period. But what I can say to Lorna Slater is that the Government's focus is on meeting the country's energy security needs, on reducing emissions in line with climate commitments and delivering affordable energy supplies. In doing so, ensuring that a just transition for the oil and gas workforce is secured to a net zero future as the resources in the North Sea decline.
Lorna Slater.
New oil and gas exploration will not guarantee us energy security. There is no security for homeowners when the cost of heating their home is still tied to volatile gas markets. There is no security for oil and gas workers trapped in a declining industry. And there is no security for communities who need a just transition instead of arguments about how many drops of oil we can still squeeze out. Isn't it clear that with Labour dumping their green investment plans and pledging to keep every Tory oil and gas licence in place, and the SNP back to their old habit of trying to face both ways to the fossil fuel industry, that it's only the Scottish Greens who are giving clear and urgent response to the climate emergency?
First Minister.
Well, in the course of in the short period in which I've been the First Minister, the Government has announced two very significant investments, one at Ardasir and the other at Nigg, which are essential to the renewable energy industry in Scotland and the development of the offshore wind sector. These are enormous investments which signal the commitment of the Government. Now, yesterday, in my statement of priorities to Parliament, I made the point that Scotland has developed, under the lifetime of this Government, a position of significant advance on electricity generation from renewable energy. When we came to office, around about 20% of Scotland's electricity consumption came from renewable sources. That has now reached 113%. That is a sizable transformation in decarbonisation of electricity, which should be welcomed, and the Government will build on that by the support that we're putting in place for the renewable energy sector within Scotland.